Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today we have special guest Nidi Belani. Now, Nidi is an interview and people skills specialist. She is a PR specialist at Success Talks who has been in touch with you. So thank you so much. Now she has so some of the things that she's done, wow, you've done a lot. So she is a certified image consultant, NLP coach, ACTA certified trainer, and founder at Success Talks, a coaching academy based out of Singapore. And she works with career-oriented individuals globally to ace their interviews and get hired for their dream job by focusing on every aspect of the interview process. So that is so important because right now people are interviewing for new things. So welcome to the show, Nidi.
Hi, thank you, Sheila. It's really amazing to connect with someone way across.
Yes. And one of the questions I like to ask is, this show was based on my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. I wrote it right before our pandemic, and we have had every situation imaginable and then some. So I'd like to start off, if you have a story you can share with the audience about maybe a time in your business or personal life where you experienced a difficult situation and how you got back on track.
All right. I think it's always amazing to share stories, and this is how people can relate to it. And I love the name, by the way. That's an amazing name for the book. Really eye-catching. Right. So I actually used to fly for Singapore Airlines. I used to be a cabin crew. I did that for 10 years, and I absolutely loved every single day of it. And in 2015, I was in Paris, and a place where people fall in love. I fell in the bathtub and I broke my tailbone. So when that happened, obviously life did really hit rock bottom, like literally. And I was in Paris for about a month, trying to recover, trying to figure out how to get back into Singapore because I couldn't travel. And, one thing that was constantly on my mind was, will I ever be able to, really get back to flying? Because, flying is very challenging physically. You really have to stand on your feet for really long hours. And true enough, I couldn't. And I really tried for about a year. I came back. I tried to go back to flying. But, there were times that if I sit down to get something, I couldn't actually get up. And I really had to hold on to something, and I couldn't stand for more than 10 minutes. So I really had to, I had to tell myself that this is the time. But, as they say, when one thing closes, another thing opens, you just have to look out for those opportunities, or rather create opportunities. That's what I always tell people, looking out is one thing, but you really have to create opportunities. So, that it's really funny because when I met with that accident, I had just met my then boyfriend, now husband, who decided to marry the girl with the broken tailbone. But yeah, he was very supportive. And then, we made a decision together that, we want to get married, and this is the time that I need to focus on my health. And, I'm sure I'll figure something out what I really want to do in life after this. And so I've been in training profession for about 17 years now, actually. I used to be a trainer with Singapore Airlines as well. And that kind of situation gave me time to rethink and, figure out if training is something that I really can do on my own. And that's how Success Talks actually started in 2017 when I quit my job. And actually decided to help people to become cabin crew because, that's where my experience was. I picked that up as a niche and, started a YouTube channel, and I was never on social media before that. So, I got on to doing everything, started educating people. And I'm very glad we have close to 50,000 people who follow us in different social media platforms. And we have over 500 people who have gotten their dream jobs. They're flying for different airlines. And it's just been an amazing journey. Of course, there's a bit of a hiccup now with the whole aviation industry, but we're still adapted. So now we're doing interview coaching and not just cabin crew interview coaching. So we're still being resilient and, trying to bring ourselves up from there. Yeah, so that's my story.
Oh, wow. I love that. That is so interesting. And it made me think of, I actually have a chapter in my book on careers. And in the chapter, I met a lady. I was like, what am I going to write about? What am I going to write about? I went to lunch and I met a lady who wanted more than anything to be an airline stewardess and fly everywhere. And she didn't know what to do or how to get started. And she's still looking. So I will connect you because she definitely needs to talk to you. But isn't that funny how the world shows up in perfect time? So that's really interesting. But yeah, it's something that once you do training in one area, it's like leadership skills. It's something you're born with it or you're not, and you can learn to a certain degree. But so when you were little, this is a fun question. Parents listening in like to hear this. What was your focus, or what did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
Okay, so this is probably going to be a bit ironic for everyone who's listening to this. Growing up, I never wanted to be a cabin crew. And my sister actually is a cabin crew. She's still a cabin crew. She's the one who wanted to be a cabin crew. Growing up, I actually always wanted to be a trainer. When I was young, I think at 14, 15, I knew I wanted to train. I wanted to be a facilitator. Not really little. I can't remember actually what I wanted. Actually, when I was really little, I wanted to be an athlete. I'm a trained cyclist, so I wanted to grow up to be a proper cyclist. But when I truly understood the world, that's what I thought I wanted to be a facilitator. I always wanted to be a trainer.
Oh, wow. So for those listening in, something that tends to happen is when you have a hobby that's really a passion, that's kind of like a life purpose mission, life will get in your way. You will break your tailbone. You will hit a rock bottom. Something will happen. COVID might happen. And all of a sudden, it's almost like God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, the energy of scientific energy, whatever, guiding you like, no, that's not exactly the path. It's a great path, but you know what? I'm going to redirect you like a soul reroute to something even better. And so if you're rebuilding and reorganizing life, you can do that on your terms this time. Use whatever that difficult situation is. Look, you found love, you found a new career, and you're happier, although you loved what you were doing before. So that is the beautiful example of how to reinvent life on your terms.
Totally. I agree with you. Yes.
I love that. And I'd love to hear more about, if you could give an example of some of your trainings and work that you do. Maybe some examples.
Sure. So we actually do get a lot of trainees from different parts of the world. So that's one amazing thing, because I don't really have a physical institute, and that's something that I never wanted to do. So even before pandemic hit, I always knew the world is more towards online trainings and digital training. So, I wanted to breach that physical barrier. So we do have students from Egypt, from US, from UK, from Taiwan, from China. And one thing that we do is we do a lot of group learnings. So, when these people come together, there's a lot of cultural exchange. There's a lot of exchange in terms of, opinions and ideas. And that's a great place to learn. I truly believe in community learning. So that's one thing I really, really emphasize on. Mm-hmm. You just don't learn from the trainer, but you learn from each other too. And in that process, you'll learn from other people as well. So we actually have some amazing students. So some of the things that we do with our trainers is first, so I'm an NLP coach. I'm a trained NLP coach. I'm a trained hypnotherapist. And I really incorporate that a lot into my trainings. So I remember this will truly stay with me, because this girl came to me and she told me that she wanted to become a cabin crew. And I said, let's do the training. But when I started doing my training, usually we begin with, clarity, goal setting, and stuff like that. We just don't dive into like interview training. For us, it's really important to understand your purpose, to redesign your purpose, to understand your triggers, and do a lot of that stuff before we get into actually doing mock interviews. So during that time, we actually realized that she truly never wanted to be a cabin crew. So she was doing all of that because she just wanted to, wear the uniform, and she wanted to feel, ever since she was young, how she would actually feel wearing the uniform. So I actually gave her my uniform. I took photos for her. I gave her my uniform. I said, you know what, go try the uniform, live your dream. And if that is not what you want to do, become a cabin crew, you don't really have to do this training. But she still went through the whole interview training with us, because now she's actually placed with another company and she's really happy. And that's what we did. But we didn't really train her for cabin crew. We trained her for another job. So I think that's really important when we train. It's really important to not just train people with what you have decided. It's really important to understand your students. It's really important to understand what they want in life, and design it according to their purpose and their dream. And I think that's really important. That's one thing that I really, really focus on. And I think second thing that I love doing with my students is to nurture them to do more, and not just, get trained by us and go out there and give interviews. So currently, all our interns are basically our students. And now what they're doing is so much more. Like, for example, the intern that connected with you, Sadaf, is basically doing PR for us. And in that process, she's learning people skills, because that is so important, right? So she's connecting with people. She's understanding how to write emails. She's doing all of that. And then we have someone who's managing my social media. And in that process, she's learning again how to, reach to people and research, because she does all the aviation related stuff for us. So that's another thing that we do. And then we have another student who's actually conducting training classes for us. So we trained him to, take another role and do some training, develop his own niche to see where he's good at, because currently cabin crew jobs are not really happening. And most of my students, are cabin crew aspirants. So I definitely want to give them opportunities to keep growing and not just, get stuck waiting for that opportunity. And that's something really important. You've got to create opportunities. You can't just sit there and, look for opportunities online. You really have to create them. So yeah, that's what I do. And I think I'm really proud of my students. So those are some of the things that my trainees or my students do.
Now, how and when did you find NLP and hypnotherapy?
Oh, so that's another story. So I'm actually a sound therapist by passion. I do sound healing. And I discovered NLP while I was in the process of learning how to do sound healing, because I really wanted to understand deep down how people, behave, their patterns, their psychology. Because when I do sound healing, it's not just energy healing, but I also do a lot of, it's not just energy and intuitive healing, but I also try to incorporate the practical side of it, because I really want to understand, what is guiding that particular fear, what is guiding that particular pattern in your life, and things like that. So that's how I actually learned NLP, because I wanted to combine sound healing with NLP to give it a very practical approach to be able to help people with their fears, or in general, whatever they're looking for in life, if I can help them. So that's how NLP happened. Yeah, and hypnotherapy came along with NLP. So now I use it as guided meditation. So that's what I do. I do very specific guided meditation based on challenges that people do, and I use hypnosis as part of the process.
Yes, the subconscious mind is magical. Really.
Absolutely.
Yes, I love that kind of stuff. And I also did the NLP training. It was funny for me. I did a lot with the Tony Robbins group and traveled for 7 years and did all the events and everything, had a blast. And for me, everybody said, you use NLP all the time. And I was like, what the heck is NLP? I never heard of it. I just used it. So and then I got to study, well, what am I doing? Oh, that's what I'm doing. Okay, well, that works. I've always been in sales in one way or the other, starting as a very young girl. And so that's something that sometimes you don't even realize, but to understand what's working for you and why just makes everything easier. So I loved the courses. It was very interesting. Definitely.
Wow. Were you here when Tony Robbins was here in Singapore?
I didn't go to the Tony Robbins Singapore event, but I did go to Singapore a few times. And I've been to just about every other, like I traveled full time. I rented my house out and just did the traveling and
Wow.
everything else and platinum, everything. So had a blast and learned so much. So hopefully when events are open again, I think the first UPW is actually going to be in Florida live in November in the States. And I don't know if they're doing international travel yet or not, because the laws are so interesting right now. So we will see.
Okay, so my husband cannot listen to this, or maybe he should listen to this. He's he works full time, but he's a passionate musician. He's a writer, and that's one thing that he really wants to do. He wants to rent his place and he wants to go on a road trip. Do gigs. We have close to 50 guitars in our house. And he's just so passionate about it. And I truly want to support him, but as you say, life comes in our way. But we are figuring things out. So we are creating opportunities. So hopefully that works for him.
And it's so interesting for me. I adopted 3 children, 3 of my own. So I have this huge family, and I had just the 2 babies. Everybody else was already in college or working. And so I traveled, and the 2 young ones traveled with me mostly through the events. And then they did online schooling. And in the summers, they went to Stanford and did high school, college, a program that does both. You get credits for both, and they stayed at the dorm. And so it really was the best education ever to travel. And then there was this point where I finally, now this will happen once you travel and you get it out of your system. It took 7 years. Then I was like, okay, I'm done. I need to nest. I need to have a home. I need to do all these, light my candles and decorate. And so I finally now I have a couple homes. But it's interesting how with the universal pause, the virus, I am so grateful that I took the opportunity to travel when it showed up and didn't say, well, I'm going to wait until whatever. So, So pack your bags. Let's come visit over here in the States. Definitely. And there's lots of places to play instruments and tour.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to connect you with him when we're planning to come to you.
That's wonderful. Yes, that's wonderful. Now, what tips do you have for people, just job interview in general? People are looking for work, or maybe they lost their job because of the corrections in the employment market with COVID, or they're looking to start something and hire or be hired. So what tips do you have for people looking for work right now?
So I think first and foremost, for people who are looking for jobs, I'll probably break this down into 3 parts, maybe for someone who's before the interview and who's at the interview and after the interview stage. I think that would be beneficial. So for people who are at before the interview stage, I think the world is changing. The world of interviews is changing quite a lot. So I have to be adaptable. It's no longer, carrying your CV and going to someone's office. The world is truly moving towards online interviews. So, we run this really catchy stuff called, I call it Airflix. It's a program that we run where we have a closed Facebook group and we invite people to actually record their videos and, answer questions online, and then we give them feedback. So we actually kind of train them on the entire video interview process. I wasn't expecting this to be a StreamYard. If it wasn't, my setup was very different. So we usually, coach them how to have that lighting and all that stuff. And that's what we do in that program. It's very, I would like to say it's a really good program. If anyone's interested, they can actually look that up on our website. But yes, so the world is changing. So you've got to adapt yourself to prepare from that perspective, get used to the entire online interview. So that's one. And second, I also feel the interviews is no longer just about, what you do in the interview, but it's really about making that connection, making that professional connection. So be more visible on places like LinkedIn and, not just connect with people, but be aware of what's going on in the industry and things like that. I think that's really, really important. So whole dynamics of the job, how interviewers hire really has changed quite a fair bit. They just don't look at what's on your CV, but they also look at your online presence. What have you been doing? Who have you been connecting with, and things like that. So I think that really does play a huge role.
Mm-hmm.
When you're at the interview, I think that's one place where whatever preparation that we have done sometimes tend to fail because of the nervousness setting in, or feeling intimidated because of other people around you and things like that. So first thing that I always tell people, and a lot of people, when I tell them this, they say, "Oh, really?" So I always tell them, it's really important to feel nervous. So when people tell me that, what should I do if I'm feeling nervous? I was like, you're feeling nervous? That's great. That's going to keep you grounded. It's really important to feel nervous, but at the same time, you've got to have the right tools and techniques to be able to deal with that nervousness. So it's not as simple as saying, "Oh, I'm going to be confident." It never works that way. You've got to figure out what's the reason for your nervousness, because everyone has different reasons. So you've got to kind of figure that out. And once you've done that, you've got to apply things like anchoring when you're at the interview to be able to deal with that nervousness at that point in time. And the second thing is, I always tell people, if you're comparing yourself at the interview with other people, fantastic, do it. I think, again, it's really, really important, because when you compare yourself with other people, but just remember, the purpose should not be to self-evaluate. The purpose should be to self-enhance.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone is doing something better than you, that's great. Pick up a good thing, try to incorporate it into yours if you feel that's going to work for you. So I think that those are the things really important, because a lot of people just focus on interview as a question answer session. And I feel it's so much more than that. It's really about communication. It's really about conversations, because I tell people that you can never prepare for all the questions that the interviewer is going to ask you, because the interviewers don't themselves know what questions they're going to ask, right? They don't sit with like a series of questions. They sit with your CV and they ask questions based on what's in there, what's the job role and things like that. So you really have to make it a conversation. Remember, bring your personality out there. You don't have to, just focus on what's the job role. It's really about your personality, how you're going to fit into that role. So, at the end of the day, you're selling yourself, but on your own terms.
Right. Yeah.
And I think post interviews, I feel rejection is really important in life. Just going back to what you do and what you say, when life brings you down, you really have to pick yourself up. But, with the right feedback, with the right knowledge, in the right direction. And that's really important. Just picking yourself up and walking in any direction is not going to get you where you want to be. So if you're picking yourself up, get some help if you need, some sort of mentorship. If you don't know where you went wrong, talk to someone. It doesn't have to be me. It could be someone, that you trust, you believe in, and, get some help. And of course, believe in yourself. You can still do it, but as long as you know that you're working in the right direction, I think that's really important. So yeah, that's the advice that I will give to people.
Very helpful. Yes, that's so important. I had gift stores, and I had over 200 employees, and the interview process was really important to me, because I needed to make sure that I'm hiring people that are going to be a good fit. It's almost like a relationship. It is a relationship, but when you're hunting for a relationship, you're going to spend a lot of time together, working together. So make sure it's a good fit. If it was a no, it's really a gift, because you don't want to work somewhere where it's not a good fit for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because then you're stuck, and then you have to go through the process all over again, because you won't be happy. So if you're able to really connect and have the same values, it may be that it's in the field that you love, but if that company doesn't have the values that you have, and it goes against something that's really important to you, it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
It really stick with your values and your standards, because you're going to represent the company, but working with the company, it also represents who you are. And so that's very important.
I agree. Totally. It's very mutual, right? The entire process is very mutual. Yeah.
Yes. And I think the other thing that I haven't applied for a lot of jobs in my life. I've mostly been an entrepreneur, but I was a teacher. I was a Waldorf teacher with my 6 children, you know, to get them to this creative school. I got to teach there and be with them. And everything else that I ended up doing, 99.9% of the time, I was volunteering or helping out in one way or another. And the people saw me and they got to know who I am. And then they'd say, hey, by the way, there's this position opening. We want you to get it. Could you just fill out the application and we want to hire you? So it was kind of after the fact that they had already offered me the job. It's for legal purposes, you know, HR, whatever they need. But that's what happened. And I mean, it was in things that I didn't even know it was something I would ever pursue. Like one of my good friends, her husband was running for assembly, which is a political office. And they, you know, what political party are you in? I said, Free Spirit. I didn't know Democrat, Republican, you know, I didn't know. I was so young, but I was really good with people and training and fun, and, you know, working with the audience and using NLP before I knew it was NLP. And I was just helping my good friend, her husband, running for assembly. And then the next thing you know, I was working with other politicians and a lot of nonpartisan, like school, helping with the education system in the United States, equal education for all, different things that really were heart issues for me. And so it's funny how that happened. And they would pay me. People would pay me to help them with this. And I was like, okay, I don't really like politics, but I love people and I'm good at this skill. So a lot of time, just showing up, volunteering. Yeah. And then you find skills that you don't even know you really have that are natural. Leadership skills, working with people, you're training people is something, it just keeps showing up. And you just say yes. And if it doesn't work out, okay, you just go do something else.
No, that's true. That's true. I mean, I always say there's so much more that we learn from life experiences than from work experiences itself. You know, a lot of times when my students get stuck with some questions, I was like, really, you like, and that goes back to like, you know, I'm sure like when you were 15 at some point in time, you must have negotiated with your parents to get something out of them, right? There you go. That's your negotiation skill.
Right. Yes. And sales, well, we're always selling something to someone in one way or another. Imagine 6 children raising these 6. I had to sell them on everything. Eat your vegetables, get to school on time, all these things.
That's true. You know, yeah, you've got we all learn from life experiences so much more than just work. So, you know, you're absolutely right. Just being out there and doing things, it's so important. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Now, for those people like my friend that I mentioned, who's really looking for that job with as a stewardess, as crew, working with the airlines, could you give a couple of tips on how to get started in that industry? What to do?
For sure. So first up, she should go and watch my YouTube videos.
Okay, definitely.
I think that's going to be really helpful because we've kind of tried to cover, there's a huge playlist of a lot of things, especially when it comes to cabin crew interviews. So if she can watch that, she'll have a bit of an idea what are the requirements and how usually the interview process works and, you know, things like that. Because for the airline industry, the interview process is a little bit different in comparison to other places, because usually if you have like 5 rounds, all the 5 rounds are going to happen on the same day. So you start your day at like 8 a.m. and then probably you'll go home like by 11 p.m.
That's a day.
Yeah, that's a day. And during that day, you really have to look impeccable, you know, because, you know, 14 hours on the flight, you still have to look impeccable. So it goes back to the same concept, right? So a lot of things that happens in cabin crew interviews are very different. But yes, to get started, the first thing she could do is she could look up on YouTube videos. The second thing is it depends on the airlines that she's keen on. If it's a regional airline, if it's an international airline, most of the airlines, they put up job opportunities on their website itself. Most airlines actually don't go through external parties or recruiters, unlike other jobs. So that's one key thing to look out for. So there's a job listing on, if there's a job, it's going to be listed on the website. So for the application process, most of the times it's really simple. You just have to upload your CV online. You have to upload the photos online. Although the process of creating the CV. It's an entire story altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have a course on Udemy that we call CV Makeover. She can definitely look that up as well. So yes, so once you've done that, then the airlines will give you a call and then they'll tell you about the entire interview process. So again, it depends which airlines and stuff like that. So that's what it's going to be. But so at the end of the day, when it comes to our job as cabin crew member, we have to realize that for a lot of people, they think that it's about serving food.
Oh no.
You are you're someone who's just serving food, but it's so much more. It's really about people skills. It's really about being aware, safety, security. There is so much more that goes into it, and especially post-pandemic. Things have changed quite a fair bit. You really have to get people to not fight, to not open doors, and wear masks.
Right. Right.
There's so much more. So the preparation also differs quite a fair bit in terms of how you would prepare for those kind of interviews, from grooming to how to communicate in the interviews, and all that. So that's really important. So that's my advice. Get started on figuring out get some clarity on which airlines does she want to be a part of, and then set some goals from there. Figure out when the interviews are going to happen, which might take a little bit of time at this point in time, to be honest. So if she's not working, a great advice would be to get some hands-on experience, because I think that would be really valuable at this point in time when airline starts rehiring, because most airlines actually do hire fresh graduates, but I think at this point in time, because the competition is going to be a little bit higher in that sense, they might want to hire more experienced people in comparison to just fresh graduates. So that's another thing. And most importantly, take care of herself, take care of her skin. Image plays a huge role in our industry, how we present ourselves. And, I know to a lot of people this might sound cliche, but I think it's perfectly all right to actually take care of yourself and look good, because that's the image that you're presenting. A lot of times people ask me if I have a pimple, why can't I get selected? And I was like, why can't you get rid of the pimple? Why would you want to question that?
Right. And maybe they were so stressed, they got a pimple from the stress of being nervous.
Let's work backwards. Let's try to get rid of the stress and the pimple instead of, changing the entire interview process, because that might not happen.
That's so true. I remember my grandmother, she was very specific about clean and neat. She was like, you don't leave the house if you're not clean and neat. You got to have everything clean and neat and look nice. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it better be clean and neat, and, keep yourself organized. And she lived to be 103. So she was born in 1908. And so she went through the Depression, the Spanish flu, so many things, and she had great wisdom to share. And that was her thing. And she came from the fashion industry. She designed clothing. And in fact, she did bras and swimsuits for Catalina Sportswear, White Stag, El Capitan. And so that's why I have my bra in the book, pull yourself up by your boots or your bra, because I had to bring grandma into it. And it's something that really makes a difference. You don't think about it, but it does make a big difference in getting hired and keeping a job the way people perceive you. And that doesn't mean that if you're not dressed perfectly, you're not a good person. It just means that you need to get the chance to get your foot in the door so they can get to know who you are. And to have yourself represent, it's like your business card looks neat, but if you don't match that, then you're not going to get the clients.
Absolutely. No. I mean, it's all about how you're being perceived at the end of the day, and how you perceive yourself too. I think that's really important. Like I tell my husband, heck, I know I don't dress up for you.
Right.
He was like, what? I was like, yeah, I dress up for myself. I want to look good for myself. I think that's really important. I mean, yeah, in the process, if I look good for you, that's fantastic. But
yes. But I don't know if it's a male, female, masculine, feminine thing or what, but I used to design buildings too. So I worked with my gift stores. I worked with the top designers on Rodeo Drive and this and that. And so I learned to design. And so I purchased buildings later on, and I would redesign the whole thing. And I would go in and I'd be helping, the crew of maybe 10 people painting and cleaning. And the days that I didn't dress as nice, like I would still have, even though I had painting clothes, it had to be really nice and make me feel good because
Yeah.
I was happier. And I wasn't dressing for the people. I was dressing for myself. It was totally, I mean, and my friends were like, "You're going to go paint. Why do you have makeup on? Why do you know?" And it's like, "You know why? Because I feel better." Just,
Yeah.
it's just, it matches. My outfit matches and it's going to get paint on it. And that's okay because it's my painting outfit, but it's a nice, fun outfit that's appropriate. And so that was the difference. And when I did it and just sweatpants or whatever, I wasn't as up. I can't even explain it. It was just something. And I had to have a lot of respect walking in and dealing with a crew of maybe 10 guys and
Yeah.
being the one that told them what to do.
Yeah.
Because I'm a woman and I'm telling these guys how to do their job and how to do it exactly the way I want it done when they know, whatever. And so that really helped a lot. And so at any field, any industry, it's going to make a big difference. Definitely.
Absolutely. I do have to say you're a woman of many talents, though.
Oh, yes. Yes. That I think nowadays you have to. I recall my first job. My first job at 18 years old, I literally worked at Jet Propulsion Lab, JPL for NASA, in the engineering department doing programming. And it was so painful for me because I did it, I was this young girl and I wanted to make a lot of money. And my grandmother said, "Go get this good job. You'll have it for your life." I had the carpal tunnel. I had pain in my back and neck. And they actually started having me do training courses and safety classes and make people laugh and stay awake during these training courses were required by law to have. That I loved. Sitting at
Yeah.
the desk programming was like, it was painful. Physically, my body. Yeah, my body was like, "Come on, we need to move. We need to go talk to people." And so I kept going and being guided toward things that work for me. I
Yeah.
love working with people and having this show and doing live events and this and that is for me. So just like you, we get guided and sometimes one thing happened or another and you think, "Oh, that was a terrible thing." But no, it was the best thing ever. So
Yeah. No, absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. You gotta really trust your instincts sometimes and just, go with it. You might not see the lights immediately, but trust me, you will someday.
yes, this season has displaced a lot of workers. A
Yeah.
lot of families are struggling to get back on track. Businesses, maybe the business has moved home, so now it's online, and you've got maybe children home because some of the schools are still closed or
Yeah.
closing on and off. And so it's a challenge, but it's such a gift for parents, for your children to be involved and understand what mom and dad does
Yeah.
and get a feel for real life is actually going to benefit them more than reading just a book. Education is beautiful, but the open source learning of seeing what mom and dad does, what is this important? Okay, I've got to do my work and my homework as a young kid, and my parents are doing their work.
Yeah.
And then we all come together and have our family time. And when they see that, they understand, why am I learning this? It's
Absolutely.
the
So
future.
true. So
Yes.
true. Yeah.
It connects everything. Now, what was your favorite thing about traveling? You got to travel all over for so long with the industry. What was your favorite part?
Okay, so so there are parts that people might think, "Oh, why did she even become a cabin crew?" But as I said, it was actually my mom who motivated me to take that decision. But as I said, moms know the best always. I don't know how, but they just know this is the best thing for you. So I absolutely loved those 10 years, but I'm not really a travel person in general. Like, once, that's fantastic. I'll go around and I'll look around and, that's great. I'll take some good photos and stuff. But for me, actually, it was really about people. I think it was just amazing to be able to, meet so many people, and especially, and for me, if it's a 10-hour flight, you'll never see me sitting at one corner or, doing my stuff. I'm always in the cabin. I'm always where people need me and, just talking to people. And being in situations where you get to like resolve stuff if there's challenges, and in general, just talking to people, it's so much fun just to get to know their story, and what drives people to do what they do and things like that. So I think that was a lot of fun. And imagine like getting to meet new people every single day.
Mhm.
I think that was really fun part of my job, and I've made such amazing friends who are there with me at this point in time. I've made friends who are helping me with my business at this point in time. I have friends who, if I don't call my family, they will call my family and they'll check on them. So that's beautiful, and that's what I gained from traveling. To be honest, I made beautiful friends, I made beautiful relationships, and that's for life.
Definitely. Me too. Doing that 7 years of travel, I have friends in just about every part of the world that
Yeah.
I can go visit, or they come visit me. And it just makes it so wonderful because you get to see the real thing. You go to
Yeah,
London, they take you on the tube, they show you the real events and the real things that are going on. It's a lot different than just being a tourist. And,
absolutely.
and so, yeah, I really love that. So it is the people for me as well. Now, my last question that I have is, can you share advice that you would give yourself when you were 10 years old? What would you tell your 10-year-old self?
Hmm. So something that I told myself at 15,
Mhm.
I would probably tell myself at 10. But I mean, honestly, there's, yeah, I think that's just one thing that I would have changed. I think I would just change the timeline. So I kind of grown up in a family where people used to fight quite a lot, you
Mhm.
know, uh, in that sense that, wasn't a very cordial relationship, and all that you're doing most of the times is trying to figure out how not to let people fight, and how not to,
Mhm.
how to kind of resolve this and things like that. As a child, you're always trying to do that. But so my sister told me this at the age of 15, and she said, and those are just pure words of wisdom, which I actually learned later at when I did my NLP. But that's when I realized, oh my God, she actually taught me NLP when I was 15.
Uh,
So she told me that you can't expect people to change around you. If you want to change, you've got to change whatever you want. So
mm,
the change has to come from you. The change cannot come from people who's around you. So if you expect your parents not to fight, that's not going to happen. They have their own reasons for whatever they are doing in life. Uh, but if you don't want, it's about what choice do you want to make for yourself, right? How much do you want to get affected by it?
mm,
So that's one thing that really changed my perception of life. It really changed me as a person, and I told myself that I am never going to be this person
mm.
who's going to be, who's going to have that kind of family, and I'm not going to be that person. Who's going to get affected. So that was a life changing moment for me. So I'll probably tell my 10-year-old
Yes, that's
to
beautiful.
to get that wisdom when I got it at 15, that, yeah, you can't expect people to change. You just, if you want to bring about change, you really have to think through and change whatever you want to change, how you perceive things, how you
Mhm.
look at things. And change probably the causes of it if you want, but don't expect people to change, because that's never going to happen. They have their own reasons for whatever they do.
Right, right. I love that. That is some wisdom at a young age. That is super wisdom. It's so important. I think there's something about when you stop blaming other people
Yeah.
or holding, a grudge, or, oh, this happened and now my life is terrible because 100 years ago this happened because
Yeah.
the person did XYZ. And you say, wait a minute, I own my response. And
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
own my life. Or the people you blame, it could be 100 years ago, they still own your life. So you have to take your power back.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, totally. Absolutely. I mean,
Mm.
yeah, what's the point of living in the past and, holding on to the grudges? It's never
Right.
going to get anywhere. Yeah.
Well, I remember my grandmother, like I bring her up a lot. She would say, oh, if I knew what I know now back then. that 2020 hindsight, 2020 is an important thing. It gives us vision, and to have that hindsight, and we all have those times in our life where, okay, now that we know something different, we can do better.
Yeah.
So there's also that loving and forgiving yourself. If you, I made a mistake, or, I didn't do this or that, that's okay. Because now you know what you know. So apply that going forward and you're good. So that was it. Yeah, definitely. All right. Now, Nandi, where can people reach you? How can they connect? We're coming to the end of our talking time.
Oh, wow. Actually, time really flew. Yeah, it was amazing talking to you. I think brilliant talk. I loved all your stories. So yes. So for everyone who would like to connect with me, they can actually go to my website. It's HTTPS. So remember to do the HTTPS. It's nidhi-belani.com, NIDHI-BELANI.com. So that's where they can go. We do have like a lot of checklist and free stuff that we give out to our students and people who want to connect with us. But apart from that, we conduct webinars on a regular basis. So that's where we invite people to, get value from us. And if they see that we're able to give value, we do share with them about our coaching programs. Okay. So that's the way forward from here for now. But we do have a couple of things going on. We have a CV course on Udemy if people just want to look up that. And then, on our website, there are a couple of other courses that we've listed down. Airflix is one of them. If anybody wants to join that, there's a direct pathway to that as well. So those are some mini courses that we do. Currently, we're running an interesting program that we called Fast Track Dream Job Intensive Coaching. So it's basically like a fast track program for 2 weeks. 2 days. It's like a recorded thing that we're doing. So yeah, so we're working on a couple of things. So people can get in touch with on the website, and then we can share all the details from there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, hello to all the friends in Singapore and from California and Las Vegas. And so thank you again for being a guest on the show. And for those tuning in, we'll be back after these messages. Stay tuned.